Chris and Rick, Vance Grady. This is going to be a lively one today, folks. This is going to be a topic that all of us will touch some part of your life at some point. The men are from Mars, women are from Venus is going to be. All right, there's the computer. I got to get through this commercial here online. Skip that, and we are live. Good morning, actually. Good afternoon, everybody. From wherever you're from. How's it going? Welcome back, Joel.
Hey, how's everybody doing?
You guys remember we interviewed Joel a little over a year ago, and it was about his documentary, and he just put it out about high school basketball and his input as an assistant coach. And but you've since changed schools since then.
Yes, I have, man. I got a better position. I didn't want to drive for 2 hours to get to practice. So, if you ever been a basketball coach or any kind of coach, you know that sometimes you move, sometimes you travel.
Yeah, it is. It is basketball. Now you're in Texas. Everybody football state, and their coaches are basically paid a nice living salary to be football coaches, but basketball is not the same. It's like in California, you get a $5,000 stipend to be a high school coach, and you got to spread it amongst your staff. I don't know what basketball head coaches make in Texas, but football coaches make a living.
Well, honestly, in Texas, basketball is a close second. It depends on the district, depends on the school. I mean, some basketball coaches don't teach, and they make enough to where they don't have to do a second job. You got some basketball coaches making 90,000 to 100K.
Wow.
Here in Texas, because we do it big here. We want to win, and we try to get the best coaches around. And so, as you can see, the makeup of the NBA with Marcus Smart and Chris Bosh, and a lot of guys that came through the NBA and still in the NBA come from the big Texas.
Hey, we got Rose Antine in the house, Diana Boyd, Chris and Rick, Kathy. What's up, Kathy? How are you guys doing? Today is going to be a lively one. Let's do a quick review with Joel. We interviewed him, I think, about 13, 14 months ago, and he just did a documentary. What you been up to since then?
Man, we've been grinding. We've been doing a lot. So since the 13, 14 months, I wrote a second book called The 54th Man. My first book, Don't Look Back. You got it. My first book, Don't Look Back, has been out since 2020. And actually, just to give you a little plug. Actually, the first book. A screenplay has been written about that book, and we're actually working on a featured film. So stay tuned, follow me, and you can kind of see as that develops. But other than that, 54th Man has been out since November. I'm excited about it, and it's just a really, really good read.
And Joel gave me the honor. I was one of the 5 outside sources who got I actually got to read the script, at least the brief script. So I'm not going to say anything. It's going to be a secret. But we talked about a half an hour ago and said, yeah, it's still on the editor's table right now. There's a lot tested. I didn't realize how much goes into that. It's a lot. So also full disclosure. So when I introduced Joel the 13, 14 months ago, and I said I was introduced to him by an acquaintance, and they were just dating at the time. But now, full disclosure, he just got married to my sister. My sister's no longer Roberta Robinson; she's Roberta Livingston. They got married just October.
Yes,
I didn't want to say, "Hey, he's my sister's boyfriend," because you don't know how things are going to go. Especially if you get into books like this, you definitely don't know how things are going to go.
But but I would tell you that in writing and even it really hadn't changed, from writing it to being married, because it's about marrying a really good person, and your sister's a really, really good dynamic person, and I am just blessed and tickled to death to even be here.
Well, thank you. I love her to death. So we got a lot to cover, guys. So we're gonna break down. Um, he did a documentary about high school coaching. It's actually a great. It was featured in a film festival in the Dallas.
It was in we did the South by Southwest, and then we did one downtown Dallas.
Okay.
So yeah.
How was the? How did they take it?
Well, of course, everybody has their critics about things, but I think for the most part, it was welcoming. There's a part in the on my YouTube channel, so there's a 30-minute short film, and there's a part in it that deals with domestic violence. And so one of the police officers that was there, because most of the venues you got to have at least an officer, and so one of the officers came up to me right afterwards and really enjoyed it, and he said that he wished that that could be something that is presented to a lot of men, because he said the number one cause that they get here in the DFW is domestic violence. And so
Yeah.
so it was just an honor to hear that maybe that it could help somebody out there dealing with those issues.
Yeah. We're gonna get into a lot of stuff here. Some of them are not so pleasant. Some of them are actually awesome. But, this is a story, and it's taken. I talked to Joel about a half an hour ago. It's about a 50-50 life experience, a little fiction going on there, but a lot of it is so common in life. And the first story we're going to go over is "Don't Look Back." And ironically, I didn't even notice that this was written before I even knew who you were. The main character's name is James. Hi, Deanna. How are you guys doing? Hey, let's hope. Um, and he's a young man who got the mom remarried into a mixed family, and immediately got put into a situation with molestation by the step siblings.
Yes.
We talked, and it jumps right. In reading the first chapter, it takes your breath away right off the bat. It jumps you into a dark side of and it's not uncommon for. They always say, a lot of times they say it's the people you know that are the most harmful.
Yes.
Yeah. You want
Yes.
to say a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it really does. I think I put something in there where I think 1 in 6 boys are sexually molested by somebody that they know,
Yeah.
that is close to the family. And so oftentimes it does happen, but we don't talk about it, especially men.
Yeah.
You hear more women talk about, the sexual abuse than men do, because we don't want to be vulnerable. So that's something that men, tend not to share,
Yeah.
because of the vulnerability that it brings.
Well, we'll talk about this probably a couple of times, that men at times, the stereotype is don't show your feelings. It's not manly, and we'll break that down a little bit too. I read your intro to the first book multiple times, and for "Don't Look Back," and you're a man of faith, and that's very evident during this thing, because you quote scripture, and you tag scripture in your book, and the intro speaks a lot about faith, family, a broken family, and the impact each of them had on you writing the books. You also, for my research, you pulled many men and got their perspectives, um, outside of, and what was their so some of these experiences are from other people that you've talked to.
Yes.
You didn't just make it up on the fly. You got, because some of the stuff's pretty dark and it's pretty sad, and but the main character James, um, right at the bat, mom remarried, trauma, moved from Michigan to Dallas.
Yes.
Stepbrother molested James repeatedly, but then was discovered by an aunt.
Yes.
But they wanted James to forgive him right off the bat, and he's still a young man.
Yes, and it's hard. It's hard. Sometimes people want you to forgive, and you're not ready to forgive, and they really have to validate your feelings, and so every instance is your timing, and I never tell people, hey, go ahead and forgive. I never have that conversation, because it's your timing. Your timing may be, some people may forgive right away, some people may take a year or 3 years to forgive.
Yeah.
I remember talking to a lady years ago, and she was broken and hurt. Her husband had cheated on her. Her husband had a baby by somebody else, and it took her 15 years to get over it. Was she wrong? No, not necessarily. but it just took her that long. It took her time. She needed time to get over it and move on with her life. Now, is it a tragedy to allow somebody to hold you hostage like that? Absolutely. But I think it's also a tragedy to tell somebody to get over something when they're not ready.
I mean, broken trust there's no cookbook, there's no metric that says the right answer.
No. Trust is very, very expensive to get back. You have to sometimes you have to pay a lot to get that trust back.
Yeah. I see Keno Crusher's in the room here. Hey, Chris, if you can do me a favor, share out his your GiftWorks link to his as you guys know, Michael McDonald from Keno Crusher, he's on the Keno transplant list, needs some help. Let's put out his link in this chat today while we can, if you get a chance to, Chris. Appreciate you. So he goes to high school, and in the family that he's blended with, not the biggest family of means, and he's wearing older clothes, and he immediately starts getting picked. It's a common story. You get picked on because you're not one of the haves.
Yeah.
You're the new guy, and you're not a have. So, how much? You said 50-50. I hope the molestation didn't happen to you. But were you one of the haves or have-nots during your youth?
During my youth?
Yeah.
I would probably say most of the have-nots. I don't know, the age group, but man, if you was in the 80s, 90s, at that time it was, you had to dress a certain way in high school, especially in Texas. You had to dress a certain way, you had to have your hair, combed, and I've been teaching for about 20 some years now, and it's every year is different. Every generation is different, and now you don't really have to, dress apart or actually walk out the house, and comb your hair. It's funny how these kids in school these days. And so at that time, I didn't really have the best, of outfits or whatever, but I knew my mom and dad loved me a lot. So it was kind of one of those deals where if you didn't dress a certain way, you was going to get picked on, and you was going to get talked about, and you just had to develop tough skin. Or you would get ate up. You get ate up for real.
Absolutely. In my experience too, growing up, my father, I was a Navy kid, and we moved. I went to 9 different elementary schools growing up, and it's tough for young guys to make friends and then make friends and then make friends. So I got shy. Now people won't believe it, but I'm so unshy now. But I was as shy. By the time I got to 6th grade, I was scared to talk to people because you get beat down so much. So here's
and and what's sad is, man, sometimes, especially for kids, sometimes you get beat down so much that you start believing what people are telling you. And that's the tragic part about it.
Yeah. So now here we have James, and he's got all of his high school buddies, and they're having their first sexual experience. And he's been told, "You're ugly, you're too dark, you're this and that, and yada yada yada." And I knew when I was in here's my perspective. I knew I wanted to be like my grandparents were married 66 years.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be like my dad. My dad was married 7 times. My mom was number 1, but married 7 times.
Yeah.
But my mother remarried to my sister's father, and they were married 45 years. So I knew what long-term meant, and I knew what the work that goes into. But you take your time and you find your way. James tries to find his way over and over.
James is an interesting character.
Yes, he is. He had sex with a girl who immediately cut him off the next day.
Yeah.
And he didn't. How do you think? He's all in. He's like, oh my God, I'm there, man. And she's like, you're done. I can go. The high school age is tough because it is all about image, and I think that still holds true today with these kids.
Yeah.
And then, for your story too, is you wrote in the book. In Texas, you have to take an English test. Even if you're a good English student, you still have to take this test and pass the test in order to graduate. In math, in your story, you said you were part of a group. James' thing is he passed every test, but he kept finishing 1 or 2 points short of the answer. He didn't get to graduate. So not only is he picked on and put down. He didn't graduate because he was 1 point short, and he took the test multiple times. Is that your experience too?
You know, I think it's a lot of people experience this that they just don't share. And so I was actually, it's funny you talk about this. I was talking to a student, I want to say maybe about a week ago, and in the state of Texas, there's 5 tests that you have to take. You know, you got to take English 1 and 2, and you got to take algebra, biology, and U.S. history as a junior. And once you pass all 5 from the freshman to a senior year, then you can graduate. The state of Texas says you're eligible enough to graduate. Well, I was talking to this one student about, you know, his graduation and you know, how can we get him to that point coming up here in May. And one of the things that he said that, Coach, I've passed 2 tests, I'm 3 short. Coach, I just can't pass it. I cannot pass these tests. And so in his mind, it's like, well, what is my next step because I can't pass? So at the end of the day, in my 22, 23 years of teaching, I've ran across so many kids who, for whatever reason, that test or that subject matter is something that's very, you know, very detrimental to them for us when it comes to graduate. So I think when it comes to James, there's a lot of people's story that just don't talk about it. You know, and at that particular time, there was a group of students who was really, really trying to pass. Nowadays, they get you through it, but come the 80s and the 90s, if you didn't pass, it was no negotiation with no alternative. You just had to, you know, you had to pass that. And it wasn't the test that was detrimental. It was the rejection and what the result of that test could bring. You know, which was not graduating, which was maybe return your future for his college or the job or a trade school. So all of those things were very detrimental to a young person that is actually trying to move on beyond graduation.
You know, and then the one I kept waiting in the first book. I kept waiting for that shining moment to happen to James. So, junior college administrator says, "You know what? Come over here. We'll let you start taking classes, but you still need to pass the test. But we'll let you start." And he finished 1 point short again. But you start thinking that things are going to go. And then he meets a young lady named Diane. Diane. So he's a young guy, and he's always known that he wants to be in love. And you know, I don't know that a lot of men talk about that long-term thing or love in general. They just want, you know, I think in today's social media life with Tinders and the grinders, and I don't even know what that looks like. The social media warps things to saying that's the norm, but that's such the minority. I mean, the vast minority. Most men who don't talk about it because it's not men that talk about love and relationships. Yada, yada. I want to reference Chris says, "You believe the ish that some people shove down your throat. Don't believe anyone. Everyone is worthy." That's a great statement. So Diane, formerly married, kids, and you use the frame that a pastor used to you, the hips, lips, and fingertips. You were meeting Diane. So Diane was cool, but James goes all in because he hasn't found that person, and it affected him so much that she gave him the time of day, and he was all in. And he said, and it wasn't long before he wants to marry her and do these things, and you know, Diane, there's a list of
so you know, I was listening to a song the other day, and everybody knows the Poison, right? By Belle Biv DeVoe. Never trust a big button to smile. And so you know, Diane was James's, you know, love, you know, his wife, and it was the person he wanted to be with for the rest of his life, you know. And one of the things that I wrote in there is that when there's I would say there's a dream or there's you have standards, don't back down off of your standards. Because I think at the beginning, James was young and he didn't, you know, he wanted to marry a woman without kids. And but here comes Diane. Diane had the smile, she had the looks, but deep down inside, that really wasn't what James wanted. You know, she had these 2 kids, and so it's not that it can't work, but it kind of added to the problems, added to problems that James really didn't want to have. You know, he was 25, he was 26, he
Yeah.
was, you know, he was young, not too far removed from college. So he really wanted to experience his life and fall in love and have kids of his own, but that was something that was deterred because of the decision that he made. And so when he made that decision, then he also made the decision to put up with things that Diane, you know, gave him as well.
Yeah, I'm going to use. There's a phrase you said in the book that I caught in one of your paragraphs in the second book that I'll bring up here momentarily, but it's a catch-all that I think we've all experienced it. But James doesn't want to. She's telling him, "This is over. This is over. This is over. You're not the one. You're not the one." So what does he do? He overemphasizes. He bought her a brand new car. He bought her all the stuff. Took her on the trip. Spent money. She's like, "Okay, I'm still not staying," and he kept doing it. So,
See,
and I wrote in my comment here,
see,
to
the
want
first,
and needing love and to be loved is a strong, strong. Uh, I don't want to say dagger sometimes, but it's a dagger or a blessing, just to, and from a, like you said, from a men's perspective, because it's not the norm for men to write about love and wanting a relationship, but you do write about it in depth in this book, and it's such a car. It's such a, it grabbed my attention right away because I've always felt that way. I knew when I was young I wanted to be married, and I'm lucky. I married once and I found my gal in life, but I'm her second husband because she had her own personal story with the other thing too. So,
gotcha.
but he kept asking, even though it was Diane's tongue, his question all the time, what did I do wrong?
Yeah. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's nothing that you've done wrong. I mean, I always say, you know, evaluate yourself, especially after a breakup, because you don't want to take that baggage into the next relationship. But sometimes it's just not you. Sometimes it's just, hey, they want to move on, you know, and then you have to be able to allow them to move on. Something that you said about, you know, as men, you know, a lot of men, we don't talk about love. I had an interesting conversation with a young lady a few years ago. We were sitting at a bar, we was having drinks, and she mentioned to me that what she understood from men is that, and a lot of her girlfriends, she mentioned the same thing. A lot of her girlfriends talked about it. She said that to her, men, if they have sex, then they're good. That means that anything else they don't really need. They're simple. They just need sex, and they're good. And but then a lot of the men that I talked to when writing the 54th Men said the opposite. They said they need more than sex. They said they need support. They need respect. Um, um, they need somebody to listen to them. You know, when they speak. And those are the things that oftentimes get put under the rug because we're men. You know, we don't share our feelings. We don't, you know, we want to play basketball or football. We want to go to the games. We want to, you know, go get a drink, and we don't really share our feelings you know, with each other. And so oftentimes those things get put under the rug and not said. And so her view of what men need is different than what actually men need. And that's where the conversation needs to happen.
Yeah. So then he had a short relationship with Ariel that was in and out in less than 7 months. And same thing. He's over trying, and she's basically telling him right at the bat. And then Alexandra shows up, and Alexandra became the base of all of his frustration because he compared everybody to that.
Yeah.
And that's the don't look back thing where he just could not stop And what I find it hard to believe is, and I know people that have gone through this, she treated him like crap from the get-go. And he just was trying to beat that. You know what I'm saying? He was trying to win. He was trying to win the whole time. This went on for years.
Yeah. It's one of the ones where, okay, so check this out. So if you go back to Diane, okay, and we talk about the time that Diane and James first, you know, sign was honeymoon. All right. Diane didn't want to be intimate. Then you go to where Diane tells him that I don't know how long I want to be married to you.
Right.
And so you just like, wait, what? You
Yeah.
know, and then you go from there, you know, all the way to Alexandria. And Alexandria is just terrible to him. I mean, everything he does, he can't do anything right. She's on him all the time. But what keeps him going, all right, is the fact that he's hoping that one thing would change the outcome for the better, instead of just thinking about, okay, this is what she's telling me I need to go with. And we had the conversation earlier about thinking with our head instead of our heart, because sometimes our heart can pull us in a direction that we don't need to go in.
Yeah. So and then so Alexander's always there, cut into the curb, yada yada yada. Jackie appears, and Jackie at the start was very upfront, this and that. Here's where I am, here's my situation, yada yada yada. And then I wrote this in my notes. And trust me, viewers, this is not a woman bashing story. It's not. It's not.
No, it's not.
It's not.
It's just conversation, real
It's just
conversation.
conversation, because you can beat up James all you want. So, but I wrote it right here. Decision. There's the men's version of decisions, and then there's the women's version of decisions,
Yes.
and it's the exact same question. Um, Jackie was she wanted the cake and eat it too, and lick the spoon and have the champagne with the cake, and and she just ran him around, and the whole time she still wants to. She's got Roy, and Roy's still there on the side, and he's just um, and she used him for everything. But there was good times too. But when she comes back in the picture later on too, but the first time that James is trying so hard, and everything, and the rejections are starting to pile up on him. The loss of
Yeah.
love is starting to pile up on him, and he's in a room by himself, and the thought of suicide comes up.
Yeah.
Yeah. How does I hope that's not one of your 50-50 parts of the story, but I can understand why things happen.
Yeah, I mean, things happen. I mean, sometimes things pile up so much that you just like really like. If one more thing happens in my life, I am going to break. I am done. And I mentioned to you, I think earlier when we was having a conversation, and I mentioned that in this past year, three different people, that I know of, not closely, but I knew of them, committed suicide.
At your school.
Yeah, at my school, and one of the things that I understood was that at that point they did not see hope. And hope is very tricky, man. I mean, hope can take you far or it can bring you down. Because once you lose hope, it's like, what else do I have left? And so at some point they just lost hope, and it happened.
So you said
So
one was faculty and two were students.
yes, yes, sir.
Wow. Was there any evidence of, like, what I can't I don't know what a person thinks at that moment, but is that dying was the answer.
And the thing is, you just never know what people are going through. That's why at times you have to make it your point, even if you don't feel like it. You have to make it a point to say good morning, or how you doing, or phone call, because that might be a word that person needs for the day. You just never know. I remember I was telling you earlier about a lady that I worked with years ago, and she was just, we thought she was the meanest coworker in the world, because she
Hmm.
would work at the front desk and we come through, and she'd be the first person that you see. And you wonder, man, how can somebody be so mean, be the first person that we see every day? And so one day I just decided to stop, and not just walk past her, but decided to stop and actually talk to her. And come to find out, man, her husband had left her with three kids. They had been married for a while. She was just trying to make ends meet, what she was going to do. And after that conversation, it was like night and day. She was just, happy to see me. Hey, what's going on? And what she was telling me was that most of the time people just walk past her and never think about talking to her. They always think she's just the meanest person in the world. And sometimes people just need somebody to just say hi, you know, um, and that might be the day that disposition changes. So I never really, count those small things out.
It lets somebody who's at their lowest moment, and all of a sudden you ask them, hey, how's it going? It Somebody cares about me. Like, oh my gosh.
Exactly.
Bree asked
Exactly.
me in the comments, she goes, I think boys are more sensitive when they're little. It's when they get in junior high, when the girls belittle them without knowing that they're tearing them down by saying things like, "You're not tall enough, you're not the quarterback," etc. Girls can be mean.
Yes. They can really be mean sometimes.
So then he goes into self-reflection. So you, like I said earlier, he goes back, he leans on his faith, he starts to work on himself again. And it's so funny, and this is true when you're a guy, and this is how I saw it, and a lot of guys said the same thing, is when you're trying to find somebody to go out with, or you're trying to find somebody that you like, you're almost like, they look at you differently. But when you find someone, oh, you must be doing something right. They seem to line up. They want to date you now because somebody accepted you.
Somebody, somebody else wants you now, you know?
Yeah, so now like, oh, what did I miss?
Yeah.
It seems like it's true. But then there's a young gal named Lisa shows up, and she seems like the right person. However, James sabotages because he's like, is she like Alexandra? Is she, because everything he keeps bringing up Alexandra,
Yeah.
the one who treated him the worst. Just I don't.
Well, it's one of those ones where Lisa was good for him, but he couldn't get past Alexandria. He couldn't, and that's where I talk about the mind versus the heart. He could not get past Alexandria, and so his mind was saying Lisa, his heart was saying something else, and so that's why oftentimes we have to really think logically about where even when our heart is in a situation, we got to really think logically about, is this the best situation for me?
Yeah.
Sometimes I might have to walk away, take the hurt for as long as I need to, but in the end, you'll be glad that you went with your mind instead of your heart.
So that's near the end of the book, and he goes into self-reflection mode again, and he knows he's up for, and we're gonna segue into 54th Man.
Oh
And
yeah.
can you, for those that know, the reference to that, it's an NFL football reference. Can you explain what that means?
Yes, 54th Man is, and for the guys that are out there, and I know a lot of ladies know as well. But 53 men, make a football team, make the roster, and so that 54th man is often the one that doesn't make it, that gets cut. And actually, it was
The last guy,
the last guy, and it actually was an idea that I got from actually Dwayne Johnson, The Rock. I don't know if you heard his story, but he had an interesting story that he wanted to be in the NFL and playing football for Miami, and so he wears a lot of shirts called 54, and because he didn't make the team, and so with the XFL and UFL, he really tries to get these
Yeah.
guys who didn't make the team, another opportunity. And there was one interview he talked about that his life is pretty good right now because the path that he wanted to be on, he didn't get a chance to make that path, but the path that he's on now is really extraordinary in the way that things worked out for him. And so that was the idea that I got from listening to his story, and I just kind of translated it to just life, man. Oftentimes, we are the 54th man. We didn't get the job that we wanted. We didn't
Yeah.
climb the ladder the way we wanted it. We didn't get the woman that we wanted. We got put down or whatever the situation was. We view ourselves as the 54th man. But in actuality, there was a reason that came about.
So that goes right into James on a high, doing good. He understands that he's assisting at the coach at the school. He's assisting, and the head coach is leaving for whatever reason, retiring or whatever. And James has been helping out for a while, and he believes he's right in line to get the job. And he goes into
Yeah.
the office and says, "Hey, can I talk to you about? I understand I want to apply for the job. Hey, James, I've heard nothing but good things about you." And we'll look into it. And they hire somebody else who's even less experienced. They said he
Yeah.
didn't have enough experience, but the guy they hired was even less experienced, and even wasn't even from the neighborhood. Didn't know any of the kids, and
Yeah.
it just broke him. And here's the line that I brought up early ago that you wrote in the book that caught me, and I read it again, and I wrote it down with quotation marks. You teach people how to treat you by what you put up with.
Yes. You teach people how to treat you by what you put up with. And so in that part where James was like, well, I didn't get the job. I want the job. I'm qualified for the job. I didn't get the job. And so when they decided to go in a different route, James decided to actually, leave and go a different route than
But
actually
she
stay.
goes, hey, what? Stay on board and help this new guy.
Yes. And and it's funny because they wanted him to stay on board. But here's the thing. If he had stayed on board, then what he's teaching them is that, look, I can put him in any situation. I can leave him as the assistant. This is what he's good for. He's not a head coach. He's not this. He's not that. But by him leaving and actually taking a head job, he told them that, no, the way you're treating me and what you're telling me is not for me.
Right.
And one of the things that I've learned is that sometimes people will put you in a place that's best for them, but it's not best for you. And I was a part of this company years ago, and I remember one of the things that this guy said. He said, either you're going to help somebody build your dreams, build their dreams, or you're going to stop and you're going to build your own dreams.
Yeah.
And so you got to figure out which one you're going to do. And at that point, James was like, you know what? It's time for me to build my own dreams. And so he left.
So as an announcement, we went to Ellen and I went to dinner with a friend of ours who just recently lost her husband, and we were making sure she was having a good time. And her son's got kids, 2 kids. One's 2 and one's 4, I believe. And oh my God, they run. She goes, they run wild. But when her mom and dad are out and I'm babysitting the kids, wash your hands. They wash their hands. They eat dinner. They're quiet. They play by themselves. But the moment that the parents walk into the door, oh, they got to hang on. It's amazing how the human brain works. That the kids at 2 and 4
Mhm.
know that I can get away with anything with my parents, but grandma said
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
no. It's amazing. And it's a human condition. I believe that you react and you adjust your behavior or you adjust your decision making, like in James's case. Because if he takes that job, he's telling him, "I'm okay finishing second."
Yes. Yes, he's okay with finishing second. He's okay with doing the menial duties, and he's more than that. He's better than that.
Yeah,
And
because
so and so
you
he
don't.
took it upon himself to walk away. So you know what? I'm more. And here's the thing. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah,
It didn't work out. It's okay.
yeah.
Because you got to be your biggest fan. You got to believe in yourself enough to say, you know what? I'm better than this. Let me go find where I need to be at. And that's what he did.
It's hard sometimes. It's hard because, like when you get performance evaluations, and they
Hmm.
have to be critical. And sometimes they're critical, and you're like, "What? I thought I did that." And and you can either question performance evaluations, or you can just sign it and say it doesn't mean nothing. I'm still going to get my raise. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
You understand? Like when they announce coaches, like, hey, starting lineup and head coach Joe Schmo. They
Yeah.
don't mention James' assistant. They never mention James's name.
Yeah.
But after the game, he's doing the uniform laundry. He's doing the scheduling. He's doing the
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
He
Yeah. Yeah.
to set practice up so the coach can run practice. Practice is over, coach does, and then he says, the work as an assistant is it's almost I don't want to say it's more than head coach because the head coach has to take the good with the bad, but the assistant is that ground layer for a successful day.
Yeah. And here's the thing, man. Everybody's not supposed to be a part of your life. It was a book I read years ago with Coach K, and Coach K, I think first 2 or 3 seasons with Duke, he was a losing season,
Yeah,
and actually the AD, people wanted him fired. They were like, okay, you're not winning. We hired you. This is Duke. Um, but it took the AD to give him another shot. It took the AD to believe in him. And so when he did his that ceremony and he's getting ready to retire, he talked about it. Sometimes you just need one person to believe in you,
yeah.
and you don't need anybody else. You just need that one person to believe in you that will prepare you to the next level. And so sometimes everybody's not meant to walk with you. Everybody's not meant for you to tell your story to. And so that's why I always say sometimes it's okay to just walk away because that's not the person that's meant to ride with you.
I watched that show because he talked about because he kept getting beat in recruiting because they were trying to recruit everybody. And he
Yes.
goes, you know what, guys, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to recruit 5 guys instead of 25 guys. We're going to
Yeah.
focus on the 5 guys that we think can help this program. And it was Allery, Jay Billis,
Yep.
Johnny Dawkins, Amaker, and another kid. And he goes, we're not going to recruit anybody else, and we're going to
Yes.
stick with some of these five guys, and all five. And he got all five instead of
Yeah.
spreading all that and spreading this guys and traveling this net. Let's just work on these five guys. Well, those five guys went to the tournament the next year, and then next thing you know, then you get the Bobby Hurleys and
And the Christian Leitners
the
and
Leitners and everybody and
yeah.
Grant Hill, and next thing you know, now they're the winningest program in college basketball.
Exactly.
So I want to rephrase. I want to say this one more time because it's so true. You teach people how to treat you by what you put up with. And then in walks Charlotte. So Charlotte actually, and the title of that chapter was High Heels.
Yep.
She walks in with the high heels, and he's like,
Hey, sometimes those high heels, man, get a man every time.
So Charlotte actually, for the first part of the whole thing, legit was all in. Single mom was all in, James, and they were attentive. And then there comes those weird little things. The one that had kicked to the curb previously, Jackie wanted to, hey, you know what? I miss you. And he
Yep.
started double
Yep.
think things. And you get to that point where, okay, I'm in a good relationship, but do I still want to see Jackie? And then you make that, I can't tell Charlotte that I'm now talking to my friend.
Yeah.
And that's the beginning of the, oh my God, James, get out of your own way, dude.
Yeah, I think you talked about it earlier. Is that oftentimes people don't want you until somebody else wants you, and so now he's in a healthy relationship with Charlotte, and now here comes Jackie.
Yeah.
And Jackie kind of wants to rear her head back into it. And you
But
have to go back and read the story of Don't Look Back to understand the sense of
yes.
dynamic between
Yeah. So
him,
make sure
her, and Roy.
you can get them on Amazon or joellivingston.com. The stories are continual. It's a continual story, and it's about James. And I'll tell you at the end why there's only two. Um, so he actually kicks Jackie off because
Yes, he got wise. He got
he,
wise.
he does the right thing, and Charlotte goes, "Okay, we're good." And then out of the blue, there's a friend that he hadn't seen since high school. That was his buddy. Was one of the friends that actually gave him some time. Her
Yeah.
name is Sarah, and he uses the phrase, "She's just a friend." I wrote down here. There's a men's version of just a friend, and there's the woman's version of just a friend.
Mm-hmm.
Because he found out that he lets his phone. It was a text. Blah, blah, blah. Who's Sarah? She goes, "Oh, she's just a friend." And then Charlotte asked the one question. It doesn't matter. You could have asked 100 questions. The only one that mattered was, did you ever sleep with her? And he goes, yeah. But that was 15 years ago. And she goes, then she's not your friend.
It's funny because I wrote in there that him and Charlotte had the conversation, and we talked about it earlier. And he said, he didn't want to answer the question. He backed up against the wall. Come on, man, you can chime in here. He backed up against the wall. He don't want to answer. He don't want to really answer it, but he doesn't want to lie at the same time.
Yeah.
And so he's just like, and so she keep asking him. And then finally he's like, yeah, but it was 15 years ago. He's gonna make a big deal of it. And no matter what he said,
Nothing.
yeah, it was 15
Not
years
matter.
ago. It could have been 45 years ago. She heard that one thing, y'all
Yeah.
slept together. And
Yeah.
from that day forward, he heard it nonstop. She's not your friend. You can't be friends with her. Don't go see her. It doesn't matter, how long y'all been friends or even whatever. She heard that one part.
So Charlotte flips. She goes from, okay, I'm sitting into like, you know what? Cuts him off, blocks him on the phone, blocks him on the thing, this and that. And he's trying to make it right. He sends her on a trip. Hey, and so while he's on a trip, he's back at the school, and there's a lady at the front desk now, and her name's Charity. And Charlotte is in the Charlotte is in the school system.
Yeah.
We're at the same school. She changed schools. And we all know we all have a friend, even on the men's side and the women's side. It's called the sabotage friend, right? So he just happens to run into Charity, and Charity, they had coffee at work, talked about nothing but life, not a relationship thing.
Yeah.
Charlotte uses that if she finds out, she calls Charity
Yeah.
and asks Charity one question: did you sleep with James? And the real answer is no. What does Charity say? Yes.
It's crazy because um, the 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 trust issue started creeping in with Sarah. That's when the trust issue started creeping in. And even though he didn't do anything with Sarah and it was just friends and 15
Yeah.
years ago, she only heard that one thing. And one of the things I put in the book is that oftentimes women will hear something and then create their own narrative about what was done and what was said. And as men, we're like, no, that's not what I meant. That's not what I said. But oftentimes they create their narrative because they don't want to be wrong. And that's what me and you had talked about earlier. Women hate to be wrong. And so that was something that we put in there. And then what ended up happening is going from Sarah to now Charity, even though he didn't do anything with Charity, that trust already has set in with Charlotte,
Yeah.
especially if Charlotte had already been hurt before from a previous relationship.
So
And so it was kind of like James was on a downward spiral in a lose-lose situation.
well, it gets worse because he call her out on it, and she's getting ready to file a workplace harassment charge on him and the whole thing. And you just ruined my entire relationship because you wanted to be silly. And they were just coffee buddies at work. It was a work thing. So um, I wrote here, Charlotte to Charity, sabotage back to James, and the word gone. So, like
you
that,
know,
like that. So
But here's the thing. Here's the thing I wrote in there also right after that is that why do and I had to ask the women about this. I said, why do women feel the need to go through the man's phone? Why does that women feel the need? Not all, but a lot.
yeah,
But why do a lot of women feel the need? Okay, to uh, try to find out from the woman previously, okay, about the man that she's dating at that time. And
I
that
get
was,
a couple of ladies there actually called the previous one. I've never had I've been with Ellen for 33 years. I've never had the where they call the old girlfriend. I go, that was probably 6 phones ago. I don't even know those numbers. You know,
hey, when I tell you that whether it's me or it's somebody I know or something that I heard from another guy, it has happened.
wow.
It has happened more than once. And you like, why do you feel the need to do that? What is it about? And that was a question I posed in there. What is it about the previous woman that you need to get information from about the current dude that you're seeing? Because isn't that the current dude and that's between you and him and not that previous person? Why is that?
Yeah, Bree
Oh,
wrote.
and I see a comment that's too hard to explain.
Too hard to explain. So he's now back in rejection mode again, so here's where life really kicks him to the curb, and he's a full-time employee. He's busting his butt as a coach. Life gets in the way. Love is so, and then he finds out he gets a call that his mom's in ICU,
Uh-huh.
and at 3 something in the morning, and it's not going well, and but he thinks there's hope in this and that, and then he gets another call not too long after that says we lost her. So here he goes. And he and Charlotte had bought a house together. I forgot to mention that. They bought a house filled with furniture. He comes home after the whole charity funk, all this and that, and the house is gutted. He
Yeah.
comes home with nothing. So he rushes to the hospital. He didn't get a chance to say goodbye to his mom. I got a little emotional reading that thing. And he comes home, the house is empty. And that when you come home and you have nothing, and then you come home to nothing. He came home
Yeah.
to nothing.
Yeah.
And the suicide thought comes up again. And here's where life switched on a dime. He was sitting there, had the gun in his hand, had the gun up to his head, and his friend, out of I mean, the timing could not have been any better. The friend texted me, "Hey, what are you doing?" He's like, this and that. Let's go grab some food. And
Yeah.
he goes, okay. And then, um, I in the next chapter, and you wrote is so. I read it twice because it was so poignant. Because James really wants to impact their life. He wants to be in love. He wants somebody to love him. He wants to have his own children. And he wrote a letter to his future wife.
Mm.
And it's not just like, hey, help me. It was almost 2.5 pages long in the book. We're
Ladies, when I tell you this letter, you will enjoy this letter. You got to go get the book to read the letter. But yes, he wrote it to his future wife, not knowing who she was, who she was
right.
going to be, or even if he was going to meet her at all. But I think what it was that James wrote this letter because um, there's a defining moment in everybody's life where you just tired of the BS and you say, okay, this is what I am going after. This is what I want. And I am not going to stop, and I am not going to deter from getting this thing that I want, or this person that I want, until it happens.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just got to get to that point where you just fed up with the way you've been doing things,
Yeah.
and it's time to do things a different way.
He started drinking a little bit, but he stored it. It was in an envelope. He stored that letter away because you never know. He started, and then he says, "You know what? I got to get my shit together." And he once again leans back on his faith, focuses on himself, gets back in shape, and lo and behold, Charlotte bumps into him at a mall.
Yep. So
And,
it's funny because sometimes you think you over somebody until you see him again.
oh my God! All of a sudden, so he re-enters his life, and he goes with it. He's just like, oh my God, okay, you're right, this and that. And she goes, she's got 3 kids. She goes, I do want to have that child with you. Let's get a child together. And she comes home, I don't know, was it 2, 3 months after that? And she goes, hey, I'm pregnant.
Yep.
And he's like, oh my God, it's happening. I'm gonna get what I want out of life. And uh why did you do this to my guy James in the book, man? She's still seeing her ex guy. And he
Yep.
goes, yeah, are you sure? Because I go, we weren't together that long, and we only did it the one time, and yada, yada, yada. That's not lining up. Is it my child? You're the only guy I've been with. You've heard that story
Yeah.
in many times. And he goes, can we get tested? He goes, how dare you? How dare you want me to test? That's your child, yada, yada, yada. So he uses some intelligence when he's uh, the baby's born, and he's
Yeah.
being the father, and he goes, you know what? And he swabs the baby, and he swabs himself, and he goes and hooks himself, and it comes back 0.0. As what was the guy, Maury Povich? You are not the father. So, and then his life's in shambles again. It's like, you guys, I'm doing everything right. I'm doing
Yeah.
everything right,
Yeah.
and I can't win. And then I'm so glad that you added, because it was all of this and 3/4 of this, and then a young lady he meets at some function that he's traveling because he's doing a clinic or something, because he now works in San Diego.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he goes to a clinic, and he meets a young lady named Rachel. And he's not even looking
No,
for.
he's not. He's not. He's not looking for Rachel. And
Yeah,
you hear it all the time. Where it said, when you're not looking, you end up, bumping into somebody or whatever. And so, no, he's not looking. But it's crazy because, and guys, y'all have to wait to get the book to find out the end of it. But it's one of those deals where finally, is James going to be happy? Or he's going to continue on this same path. And sometimes, we keep bumping our head and keep bumping our head, and somebody's like, man, you got to wake up. You got to wake up. And I think this was this moment where, finally, somebody was shaking James, wake up, man. Like you better than this. You don't need to be going back to that. And it's time to move on. And I think finally he was getting to that point where he started to really believe in himself, and that's what what the letter was about.
So what's amazing is how the little things make such a huge difference in relationships or in anything in life. He they're having conversations and he's used to the eye roll and the thing and the shrug on the shoulders, and which just is little. I don't want to hear what you have to say. He goes to himself. He goes, "She's looking at me when I talk to her.
Yeah,
She really listens. And she never cuts me off. And
yeah,
I finished my own sentence, and
yeah,
it's like, oh my God, this person actually cares about me, and then they have a fulfilling life, and he's going through things, and he thinks, I think I found the one, and he's going through some stuff, and out drops this envelope, and she had wrote a letter.
yeah,
He had wrote a letter to the future husband, but it was actually directed right at him. And he goes, "Oh my God, this is it." And life's great. Do we want to give the ending away or not?
No, we don't. We don't want to give the ending away.
Okay, I won't give it away.
Yeah, we won't give it
But
away.
he's so great. I didn't know this, but he ends up coaching at my San Diego State, and he didn't know I was involved. This is how ironic it is. And he's coaching basketball at the college that I love, which is
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
And they have a happy life. They got kids. They're doing everything you want to do. They're traveling. They're seeing the world. And I waited. I read these books in less than 2 days, and I'm waiting for that moment because the guy got pushed around and stepped on his whole life, and he just wanted to trust so many people so many times, and he gave that away and gave it away and gave it away and gave it away, and somebody finally gave it back, and it was I couldn't tell you how much I thank you for that last chapter because it was the
man.
guy was good.
It's like you said, it's the little things sometimes that men really pay attention to. Um, there was a story, and actually my wife, she kind of told me this story. There was a story that she knew of this lady who started dating this guy one time, and he ended up getting sick, and but she never went over there to see him. She never made any time, and then all of a sudden she was wondering why he had stopped calling, why he had stopped being attentive to her, and then I think months went by, and then later on, he said that she wasn't attentive enough to his needs when he was sick, and so those are those defining moments. Those are those little things that oftentimes guys really pay attention to. When a woman feels like that she wants love and she needs love, a man a lot of times, hey, I need that support and respect. And sometimes because we're trying to feed a person what we eat, then that kind of gets lost in translation. And so that was just something that that was really difficult for James, from one person to the next, to the next, to the next. That those things kept getting lost in translation, and he kept on dealing with and putting up with what they wanted instead of what he wanted. Because as a man, your desires, your needs, your conversation is valid too. Just
Yeah,
like hers is,
yeah,
yours is valid as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
So don't ever stop believing that your voice should not be heard.
That's the one thing. That's the one message. That this once again, this is not a woman bashing Tuesday.
Absolutely, absolutely
No,
not.
it's about James's experiences, and you went through it. You had some horrible relationships in your life, and you filtered those in, and you talked to men in the situations, and I know women getting rooms, and they have their, oh my God, my husband Joe Schmo, he does this, he drives me crazy. I love him to death, but he drives me crazy. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Anyway, but it's for I don't know that I know of any books written by a man talking about longing for love and longing for relationships and wanting to be that guy
Yeah.
to be. And it's probably out there. I'm just not. I don't know where it's at. But um, it was. I was. Um, I was so glad you put some happy ending in there for the guy. Now you got it. The ending is what?
Yeah, the ending, and actually in both books is the twist. It's a twist for you.
Yeah.
And so, go out, buy it. It's on Amazon. It's on my website at joellivingston.com.
Or Amazon.
Huh?
They're on Amazon as well.
Yeah, on Amazon as well. You will be like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. It is. It's a page turner, and one of the things is real. Every person that has read the book, they've told me or they wrote me and said that they couldn't put it down. And like you said, you read it in 2 days or a
Both
few
of them.
hours.
Yeah.
And most of the readers, because it is an easy read, most of the readers they've read it either in a few hours or they read it in 2 days or a weekend.
Yeah.
And so it's very, it's easy to read, but it grabs you because if you haven't experienced certain things, then at some point in this book, whether it's Don't Look Back or 54th Man, you've gone through it. You've experienced it. Especially if you're a 30-year-old or a 40-year-old or on up, you have experienced it. You may not talk about it, but you have experienced it.
Okay.
And so
Hold on.
you will
The
enjoy
first
it.
book is Don't Look Back. And you can go to Amazon. Just punch in the word Joel Livingston. It goes right to the books. And the second book is called 54th Man. You can find it on joellivingston.com or Amazon. Just punch in the word Joel Livingston. Goes right to the two books. They're both in paperback or hardcover.
Yes.
And I want to read Chris's comment because it's really cool. She goes, Bubba and Joel, thank you again for sharing your story again. Have a great week, everybody. Bring sunshine to all the people you meet. Thank you so much for that. You guys are all awesome. This is really cool. You've got so many irons in the fire. You're trying to make a movie. You're trying to make and develop your high school coaching because you're the assistant right now, and you change schools to put you in a better spot. And
Yeah.
your team. I just talked to you. Your team just got eliminated in the playoffs, which is surprising. But you said you're going to get better next year because you were young.
Yeah.
And you're married to my sister, so I love you to death already. So you got a good one.
Yeah.
Any words, anything you want to share before we always close with words of wisdom or anything?
Yes. So you can follow me on any social media at Joel Livy. That's JOELLIVI TikTok for as long as it's gonna be here. Instagram, Twitter. You can go to my YouTube channel. Type in Joel Livingston, and my YouTube will come up, and you kind of see the short film and the documentary that you was talking about earlier, James. You can also go to my website, and we have this actual hat that we have. You can actually purchase that. I love it. You can actually get the book 54th Man. You can get a bundle. You can get Don't Look Back. And then as you follow me, you can stay tuned to what we have coming up next. Like I said, you talked about the film that we're working on right now. We just in the thick of it. We're excited about everything we're doing. Also, April the 13th. We will be in Denton, Texas, at the Plot Twist. So we'll be doing a book signing. It's gonna be called Literature and Lounge. We're gonna have a little wine as well as literature. We're just going to enjoy each other, man. Have conversations about the 54th Man. And in closing, just remember what people say you are. If people say you the 54th Man, you say you the 53rd man. You say you're the number one man. You are the only person that can really, really, promote you and validate yourself. You are important, like the guy mentioned earlier, that he mentioned earlier. You are important. You are the best. You're the best thing since sliced bread. Whether you're at your job, whether you're at the house, or whatever that you're doing. And so that's what we're trying to present to people and being a 54th man. Oftentimes great things come out of tragedy, and I can tell you this truly, James, that every bad situation that I have been in, something great has happened afterwards.
And that if people can hold that mindset, because that you mentioned suicide twice in the two books, and it there is somebody there's somebody that cares. There's a moment that's coming to save you. Please don't. If you're going to that dark side, seek help. There's help everywhere.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, go out, get the book. I promise you, you enjoy it. Leave feedback. Let us know, what you think.
Yeah.
And God bless you guys.
Yeah. The ending. We're not going to give it away. The ending is what? So that's all I'll say. Thanks, man.
Man, I appreciate it. It's been my honor, and like I said, I love you. I love your sister, and she's beautiful and
Yep.
very supportive.
Yep.
Man, I'm lucky. I'm the lucky one. You know what I'm saying? I was watching, not watching, but years ago I watched the movie The Vow, and I truly believe I'm the lucky one. And so
Oh,
we will see you guys. Matter of fact, we will be on the West Coast here. I believe it's April or May, somewhere in there, and we will see you guys, and can't wait to be out there.
hi, Eds. How are you? Thank you, man. Appreciate you guys. Thanks you guys for being in the chat today. Thanks for all coming out. Please share us out. We're approaching 5,000 subscribers. That's a milestone I never thought I'd get to. Been a lot of fun. Don't forget, we're in Vegas, March 28th, 29th, 30th for Slots Fiesta. And then Kino Nation 7, our hosted event in April 11, 12, 13 for the meet and greet. There's still room on the RSVP. There's no cap on the attendance because the room is so big. You got to go. We're at the Ghost Bar at the Palms Casino on the 55th floor. That's all to us. And it's all about Kino Nation 7. Love you guys. Hey, give my sister a hug for me.
I sure will.
Love you guys. Have a great day.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.